Welcome to La La Land. Hello, my name is Jayla, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. That was super dope of you. You get a gold star. And if you subscribe, if you're not already a subscriber, you get an extra gold star. So feel free to do that as well. Today's video is about the goals I set for my reading in 2021 and how they went, which by the title you can obviously assume that they didn't exactly go quite as planned. But before we get into that, I just want to say a huge thank you for 1,000 subscribers. It's crazy. Never thought this day would come. It was an uphill battle getting out of that 900, but we did it. I definitely could not have done it without all the lovely people who have shared my channel and were like promoting it, and it just really made me feel so warm and fuzzy inside, and I just really appreciate it. Now that we're here, I kind of have the urge to kind of make an identity of it. Like, maybe I should call this La La Land, but I kind of hate that. I'll be like, welcome to La La Land, or no, we're not doing that. Anyway, it's just really cool to know that there are like 1,000 of you out there who I could literally just talk to books about and you wouldn't mind me bothering you about books. That's pretty dope to know. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here, and I hope that we can continue to grow together while I do this thing called YouTube and hopefully don't make too much more of a fool of myself. Here is to the future, now let's go into the past. So at the beginning of last year, I made a video entitled like my 2021 goals or something like that for reading, and we'll link it up here, but really, you don't really need to go watch it because I'm about to go through them all again. So I picked 21 goals for 2021. These were just goals that were supposed to inspire me to read a little bit more outside of my comfort zone, read something I don't usually read, challenge myself to stick to a somewhat TBR that's more vague and not like explicitly saying you need to read this book specifically. So I thought this would just be interesting to share with you because I just want you to see what I've been reading, and also I just think that if you have anything similar that you do for yourself, you can take some of these recommendations and or steer clear of some of the things that I didn't really like. The first of the 21 challenges I set for myself was read an indigenous author. The first book that I read that fulfilled this prompt was Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse, which obviously ended up being my favorite book of 2021, and you know, love that for me. While I acquired quite a few books by indigenous authors, I did not end up reading as many as I should have, so I think that's something I want to focus more on in 2021 because yeah, you can buy all the books, but you gotta read them, you gotta promote them, that's kind of what matters. Next was read a book by a self-published author, which is definitely something I could do more of. I feel like a lot of the romance people that I watch read many self-published authors, and I've definitely gotten more into it as I've seen them recommend books that I'm like, yeah, I could totally read that too. So I think that is going to be something I try to do more of. I have actually I read at least 4 self-published authors, which I know is nothing to brag about because there are people who are reading like long lists of self-published authors, but the one that I did for this prompt was Along for the Ride by Mimi Grace, which is this really fun hate to love road trip story about these two people who hated each other since they met at a wedding, but then they end up having to go on a road trip together to bring their mutual friend slash sister, but mutual friend, some stuff that they have for their move. So over the forced proximity of the car ride, they become closer, and it's just a really fun story that I highly enjoyed and definitely recommend if you want a cute, sweet, short romance. The third challenge on this list was read speculative fiction, and I'm gonna be honest and admit that I just didn't know what speculative fiction was. I still kind of don't. If anyone could give me a definition of speculative fiction that's not the one on Google, that would be so helpful for me, because for some reason, like, I understand that it's literally anything that kind of says what if at this point. So it could be fantasy, it could be sci-fi, it could be like historical fiction even. But I, for some reason, like my brain only goes to one thing specifically, and that's kind of alternative history. So like Ring Shout is kind of like the epitome of speculative fiction to me, because it's like an alternate history where the KKK is demons. And for some reason, like, I can't wrap my head around anything else. I fully understand that it's just an umbrella term, but I don't know. I just need someone to give me a better definition because for some reason I struggle with it. So I had this prompt for speculative fiction, like make sure you read one. I read so much speculative fiction. Everything I read is speculative fiction at this point, really. So was it a challenge? No. But did it get completed? Yes, because I didn't even put down the book I read for this because what book did I read for this? I read so many. I had a prompt called Read a Book About the Weather, which was less about reading a book about the weather. Weather was kind of code for read a book that's kind of sciencey, that kind of explores, like, it could be about climate change, it could be about anything really, but it didn't have to be specifically about the weather. It's just read more of like a sciencey nonfiction. And so for this one, while it's more spiritual and sciencey, I guess, I read Rooted by Leanda Lynn Haupt, which is this, I'm not going to be able to describe it. So it's life at the crossroads of science, nature, and spirit, which was a really interesting read about how nature influences your own spirit and like the things you can do to become rooted, maintain rootedness, and what rootedness means. So I really enjoyed it. Definitely was something out of my comfort zone because I do not really read nonfiction, let alone spiritual nonfiction. Next was to read a book that is the next Hunger Games, and that's just playing on the marketing tool people use all the time in publishing, where they say like, you'll love this if you love the Hunger Games, this is the next Hunger Games. It's Hunger Games meets Hunger Games? It's Hunger Games meets Hunger Games. Hunger Games meets Handmaid's Tale or something like that. Those kinds of pitches that marketers will use to pull you in and make you want to buy a book. And for this one, clearly it wasn't meant to be. Clearly I just have too much respect for the Hunger Games to ever demean and degrade myself by reading anything that thinks it can compare to the Hunger Games, because nothing can. I put this on my list because I was like, I'm going to finally read Red Rising. This is going to be the year. Unfortunately, I didn't touch that book in 2021. Do I regret it? Not at all, but I do wish I had completed this challenge. And I think there were definitely some other books that came out this year, like All of Us Villains, that I could have used because that was compared to the Hunger Games. You know, they can't compete where they don't compare, and that's all I have to say about that. Next, read a thriller. For this one, I put it down because I really don't read thrillers that often, but I wanted to try them. I think that I do like thrillers, they're not something I gravitate to, like when I put something on my like books I'm excited to read list or whatever. I participated in the Thrills and Chills readathon this year because I wanted to specifically focus on reading more thrillers and horrors this year. I made a whole TBR for this readathon, but I ended up reading Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney for this one, and I really enjoyed that book, and it put me on to some Alice Feeney. Like, I like Alice Feeney. I like her writing. I like what she does with her stories. And so I actually ended up picking up Rock, Paper, Scissors, which is her latest release that came out like late 2021. I think I'm a fan. I like them. So I actually ended up buying 2 more of her books, so we'll see how those go. For the next one, I had to read an employee's book rec, and this one gave me a lot of anxiety because I don't like talking to people, which is why I only talk to cameras. I don't like bothering store employees, and even if they're like bookstore employees, which I know that they like recommending books, I know that that's literally what they're there for. But still, I was like, God, I have to ask someone for help finding a book. I have to walk up to them with my 2 feet. Like, no thank you. Luckily, that didn't end up being the case because I went to the store looking for a book specifically. I went to the store looking for Wicked Saints. I know. We know it's problematic. This is before the whole Emily Duncan is problematic thing came up. So I went to the store looking for Wicked Saints. I grabbed it, went to the register. Homegirl at the register starts raving. She loves this book. She loves this series. She was so excited for the 3rd book to come out because like she's just so obsessed. It's so good. Oh my God, I'm so excited you're reading it. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, perfect. I didn't even have to ask. She just put it in my face. So luckily I had her glowing recommendation to read the Wicked Saints trilogy. Is that what it's called? I don't know. But anyway, I did not like it. I gave that 3 stars. I gave Wicked Saints 3 stars. I gave Ruthless Gods 3 stars. Without any thoughts on the author coming into play, I personally just could not get into that story. I tried so hard and got so far, and in the end it didn't really matter because I just could not vibe with those books. Should I ever trust a bookseller again? I'm not sure, but she tried. And also my other friend recommended it to me as well, so it's not like I trust people. I don't know. It just wasn't for me, and that's okay too. Next one was read a book at the beach, which seems like it should be not really that hard, but it was COVID times. I didn't know if I was going to be going to the beach in 2021 because who knew what the summer was going to look like, so I added it to this list. I did end up going to the beach. I ended up reading The Bone Witch while I was at the beach, which is not a beach read at all, but it just happened to be the read I was reading when I arrived. And it was good. I liked it a lot. It was a really strong opener to a trilogy that I haven't finished yet, but I should really finish. So yeah, I would recommend it, but not for beach reading. I would recommend it in general. It's not a really good beach read. And then here's another challenge that was more of like a do something rather than a read this, which was to dress like a book character for a weekend. This one was a flop. Like, I could account this because I did do it. I had a whole vlog that I filmed based around this where I dressed as Laura Jean from the To All the Boys I Loved Before trilogy. And I did a bad job. I'm gonna admit it. I tried. I have photos of it. I'm not sure if I'm gonna include them because it was so trash. Like, you would not think Laura Jean when you see that. We're just gonna count this one as a big ol' X because I could have been better. I could have done more, and I could have posted the vlog that I created, but the vlog wasn't worth posting. I have a challenge called Read a Purple Book. Pretty simple. I read Once Ghosted, Twice Shy by Alyssa Cole. This was during the Sapphic-a-thon, or like Sapphic Readathon, I think it was. It was something hosted on Instagram, Sapphic Readathon, I believe. And this was a sapphic romance featuring 2 characters who ended up going on a really great first date, and then something happened to one of the characters and they ended up ghosting one of the other character, and they didn't see each other for like a year or like 6 months or something, I want to say. And then they end up reuniting and they go on another date and they try to figure out like what happened. Like, I thought things were going really well. How did this happen? That's the basic premise, but I truly couldn't tell you anything else about it because I do not, like, that whole experience is a blur. I read it all on audio. I don't even know if I could consider it read because I don't know what happened in that book, but I did read it. I had Instagram decide my TBR for one of my challenges, which is like, I have nothing to physically show for it. I think I made a story and said, leave me a recommendation, and people did, which I appreciate. You guys are awesome, by the way. I don't know if I tell you that enough, but you're awesome. I can't remember what books I read for this, but it happened. So, counts. Give an author a second chance was my next challenge, and this one I chose Jennifer L. Armentrout because I had read the Lux series by her, and yeah, that series, I liked it up until book 4, and then everything was wrong. Everything was wrong, and I just did not. Book 4, dead to me, betrayed, hated it. So, when everyone started talking about From Blood and Ash, and that was going around and everyone loved it so much, I was like, you know what? Let's give it a go. Let's see what the girlies are talking about. So I went ahead and read From Blood and Ash, which I loved. I adored it. It was great. It was a fun, goofy time. And then I read the rest of the series, and we know how that went. So I did give her a second chance. She can pull you in with that first book. Maybe even the second book, although not for FBAA. That was not. Immediately no. Immediately no. But she can pull you in with that first book, and then it's just downhill from there. So I don't know. Will I try her again? She's written so many books. She's written like, if you open a book written by her and it has the first card page where it's like, also by Jennifer L. Armentrout, way too many books. Like, good for her, but way too many books. Next one is Read a Book with Disability Rep, and even though I really wanted to branch out for this one, I think for this I just counted the Brown Sisters trilogy again. I read Get a Life Chloe Brown in 2020, but then I reread that and Dani Brown before the release of Actor Age Eve Brown. But then I also believe Eve is supposed to be on the spectrum, so I included her as well as like the actual book that I read for this challenge. So I do think I could have done better with this one, and I could be more intentional in looking for different kinds of reads. But I did complete the challenge. So then I had Read a Book About Gods, and for this one I read Gods of Jaden Shadow by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, which was kind of a flop for me. Very sad about it. 3 stars. I know that she's done better. I've read Mexican Gothic, so you know, yes, she's done better. I have a wrap-up in which I talk about this book more in depth, so I'll link it up there if you're interested, because I think she's like an author that I talk about a lot as really loving her books, so it's just surprising when you hear a negative thing from me. But yeah, this one wasn't really for me. Even though I didn't love this book, I'm excited to tune into a discussion about it. I think it's happening in February, where Cami and Naomi from Girls and Books in Naomi's Library, they host a kind of joint book club together called Brujas and Books, and I believe the February pick is Gods of Jaden Shadow. I feel like it is for that. I have to go double check, but I'm gonna leave like a picture of the information here because I'm really excited to tune in for that discussion and see what other people thought of this book. So if you're interested in that, you should definitely read this before then and go check out their live discussion because they're always a great time. Okay, listen, so the next thing was to read a book that was 800 pages or more. Some might call this cheating, I guess. But I read Dune by Frank Herbert, and this is definitely 800 pages worth of content. Even if I read the special anniversary edition, that was only 600 and something pages. So I counted that towards my thing because the mass market paperback is 800 pages. There's like a 25th anniversary edition that's 800 pages. There's another edition that's 800 pages. I read 800 pages worth of content. And I think that should count for something. I know. But like, I'm gonna do it anyway because I already took enough L's on this. I need whatever I can get. Next one was to read a 2021 award-winning book, Awards are not something I pay attention to almost ever, like literally never. I don't, unless it's like the Goodreads Awards, and we know those don't really mean anything, like at all. Even though I didn't read this book with the intention of it, I read The Only Good Indians a few months before it won the Mark Twain American Voice Award. I don't remember what exactly it was. It was like the New American Voice Award or something like that. Yeah, it was the Mark Twain American Voice Award. This is an award that exemplifies or expresses a uniquely American voice, much in the way that Twain's Adventures of Huckleberry Finn does, according to the Twain House website. I just read the entire sentence for some reason. But yeah, The Only Good Indians won that, and I read this book. Definitely enjoyed it. I tasked myself with reading a duology. I didn't do it. I acquired a lot of duologies in 2021, but I read none of them, and that's a bummer, I guess. But, you know, you can't win them all. Another flop was to read the oldest book on my TBR, which I don't even know what that book is. I was supposed to find that out at some point in 2021, and I just could not be bothered to figure it out because I have a lot of old books on my TBR. It doesn't matter. I am curious to know what the oldest book on my TBR is, but we'll figure it out when we figure it out, I guess. Down to our last three here, one of them being read a book with an older protagonist. For this one, I was hoping to read something like older, like someone who's 65, 70, but I ended up going with someone who was like 32, which I know is terrible. It's like 32 is not old, but I'm always reading books that are like young adult, or I'm reading new adult books, or, you know, just someone who's like in their 20s, whether that be 22 or 28 or something like that. And so I don't read a lot of books with older people as the main protagonist. And for this one, I ended up reading Getaway, which is I guess it's a thriller. And it's about these sisters and a friend who go to the Grand Canyon for kind of a hiking camping trip to rekindle what has been lost and really reconnect over the course of this trip. And then something traumatic ends up happening that sets them down a path to either recovery or complete destruction. And I really liked it. Gave it 4 stars. All of the women in the story are in their 30s, I believe, and it's just like talking about the different phases of life that they're in. Some of them are about to get married, some of them like are already married and have a kid and stuff, and so, you know, I don't often read stories like that. Could I have gone a little harder and read like A Man Called Ove or something? Is that about an old man? I don't know. I could have done that. Oh no. I have a prompt here for read a book about a road trip, and that is along for the ride. That's what I should have put for that. So I'm going to change my answer for the self-published author to Harley LaRue's The Dare, self-published, really good erotica novel. I liked it a lot. I've read it twice actually this year, so take from that what you will. But yeah, that'll be my self-published author, because for this one, I read Along for the Ride by Mimi Grace, which I've already told you I liked, and it's about a road trip, and so it fits the prompt. And finally, last goal was to read a book with magical realism. I read An Arrow to the Moon by Emily X.R. Pan, and a lot of people reference like a good example of magical realism being Emily X.R. Pan's previous book, which was called, what was it called? I'll leave the cover here, I don't remember. Something about birds. That was a magical realism book that people really loved. And so even though I haven't read that one, I read An Arrow to the Moon, and that comes out very soon, I think. And I really enjoyed it. I'll just say it's about these 2 Asian American teens, and they are magical in a way, but they don't know they're magical, and things are happening in the town. Like there's a crack in the middle of the city that's like unexplained, and I don't know, it's kind of like a love story that has a lot of other stuff going on around it. So I really liked it. Would recommend reading it if you enjoyed Emily X.R. Pan's other book, or if you're trying to dabble in magical realism but you don't know where to start like I am. So those were all of my 2021 reading goals. Let me know down below if you were able to complete all of your reading goals for 2021, or what's one that you didn't end up finishing, or like several, because, you know, no judgment here. Who am I to judge? Feel free to also let me know some of your 2022 reading goals. I don't have very many because I'm kind of over this whole goals thing, but definitely want to get some books off of my physical TBR. I want to get more into the habit of rereading again, which I know is a weird thing to have, because I feel like most people are saying they want to like read more and not go back to reading what they've already read. But I just miss it, and I kind of have this weird mentality around rereading. Even though I like doing it, I also think, oh, but I have so many other things I need to read. So yeah, like there are so many books that I want to reread, and I just haven't done it because I'm like, there's no time for that. As far as YouTube goals, I want to get way better about responding to comments, because I love seeing comments. It makes me so happy when people comment on my videos. Thank you so much for doing that. If you got all the way to the end of this video, leave a thumbs, no, don't leave a thumbs down. That would be kind of discouraging. What's a good emoji that symbolizes failure? Okay, if you made it to the end of this video, please leave the monkey covering his face emoji. And while I have you, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed, do you not want the gold sticker? Like, go ahead and subscribe, please. Thank you very much. And on that note, that's it. I'm done talking. Again, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you soon in another one. Bye!